Good evening, everyone. I'm Gary Christenson, Mayor of Malden, and we're here tonight at Malden Access Television with our weekly update as to what's happening relative to COVID. As always, I want to take a moment to thank everyone here at Malden Access Television for partnering up with the city to bring you these briefings. And I also want to make sure you know who is with us tonight. Our panel consists of Joan Mongeau, the Executive Director of the Malden Chamber of Commerce, Kevin Duffy, our Business Development Director for the city, Alex Pratt, the Community Development Director for the Malden Redevelopment Authority, and then someone you know, our Health Director, Chris Webb. So this week we are going to focus on the retail, the businesses that are now starting to reopen under Governor Baker's order. And so we're going to try to, focus in on what's happening relative to those plans. Before I get to our panel, I also want to acknowledge Ron Cochran, our Communications Director, who's here. Well, he's remotely helping us produce the show along with MATV, and we have our Chief of Staff, Maria Luis, from the Mayor's Office. As of this morning, the City of Malden has 1,100 confirmed cases. The good news is that our numbers are decreasing, and our Health Director will get into that when we get to him. Sadly, we still do have 75 deaths. Thoughts and prayers, as always, go out to the residents and families impacted by this horrible virus. This past week, as I'm sure you know, we started a phased reopening of our parks and open spaces with the goal of passive recreation while protecting, of course, the public health and a potential resurgence of COVID-19. So the following parks are open on a limited basis: Waits Mount, Lincoln Commons, High Rock, Pine Banks Park, the community gardens, except no groups over 10 in each garden section, and McDonald Stadium under the leadership of Joe Levine. The number of people allowed at any time is 50. So that's been the number that we were working with. Playgrounds and the use of other equipment remain off limits, and there is still no organized sports. So again, we want to promote testing. Thanks to Cambridge Health Alliance, you can get tested for free. It's at 195 Canal Street, and the hours are Monday through Friday, and you can call 617-665-2928. Yours truly took the test yesterday. I really never want to do that again. Felt like I was in a scene from Total Recall. They put that, well, actually, I'm supposed to be inspiring you, so please get tested. It's very important. As I've learned, there are people that don't even know they have it, but are walking around with it and spreading it. So please take the time to get the test. It's very quick. I think it took me under 10 minutes. And again, if you call 617-665-2928, they'll get you in to be tested. We talked last week about Governor Baker's reopening of Massachusetts, and our team has been busy at work following through on the orders of the state. So we have construction back up and running, manufacturing, and we met with all the houses of worship, and they're slowly reopening. I don't think a lot of them did open last weekend, but we are on the same page moving forward. And these orders, as you know, are on our website at cityofmalden.org. The other thing is, this past week, hair salons were able to reopen, but with strict guidelines. We're going to let Mr. Webb get into some of the guidelines associated with that. The order to wear face coverings when you cannot properly social distance remains in effect. You do not have The due date on that program is tomorrow, so he'll talk about that. And we're happy to announce that tonight we're going live with the Small Business Assistance Program, which I know has been a lot of hard work involved, thanks to Mr. Pratt, Ms. Mongeau, and Mr. Duffy. Also under resources, you know this by now, but we want to repeat it. Neighbors Helping Neighbors, they have been a lifeline for us. 339-224-4842. If you know anybody that needs help, start with them, trust me. And then the other thing is, Mr. Pratt will talk about the census, but it's important. It's still open. We want you to participate. It will help us for the next 10 years. So with that being said, let's get into the panel. So what we're going to do is have our panelists say a few words, and then most importantly, we want to get to your questions. So you can either call in tonight or you can ask a question through YouTube and the other social media channels. So Mr. Cochran, you want to introduce the panel?
Yeah, sure. Thank you again. We just want to remind folks you can call in to the studio. Malden Access Television is there waiting for your phone call, 781-388-9394. It's up on your screen. And again, you can always visit us on Facebook and drop your questions right in the Facebook feed for this particular night, or you could message us privately. And of course, we're always looking for questions in the YouTube live feed itself. So go ahead and queue up your questions. And before we do that, we like to give our guests some time to have a brief introduction. And I think we're going to go ahead and start with our Public Health Director, Mr. Chris Webb. Go ahead, Chris.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me, Mr. Mayor. And great job again, Ron. I appreciate your help this week, as usual. We do have some passive parks open that for passive recreation, and those were the parks that the mayor mentioned. But I want to keep and remind people that we're not that far away from having parks opened again. And if we just hold out just a little bit longer, it will be well worth the wait. I think the Parks Department here does a great job, and I think they're roaring and ready to go. I talked to Joe Levine today, and he's going to make it worth everybody's while, like he always does. So I'm looking forward to that. And of course, the barbershop's open. I got a haircut. It was a great experience after, I don't know, 3 months without one. So I would suggest anybody out there wants to get a haircut, make sure you call first. They all have a little different rules, but they want you to sign in when you get there. So in case anybody gets sick on a given day, we can trace who was with you at the barbershop and make sure everybody's going to be safe. So there is a great system. When we come back around again, I'll explain it more.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next, we'll go with our Director of the Malden Chamber of Commerce, Joan Mongeau. Go ahead, Joan.
Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for including the Chamber on this show. As you have mentioned, I'm the Executive Director of the Malden Chamber of Commerce. And for people who don't know, the Malden Chamber is a membership organization. It is a membership organization comprised primarily of businesses in Malden and some in surrounding communities. And just like everybody, the Chamber's world was tipped upside down in mid-March, and we primarily rely on face-to-face things such as events, networking, and social gatherings, which we were unable to do. So we had to quickly address that and change our course, change the way we were operating as a chamber, and we became, for the membership, an education and communication organization. So what we have been trying to do is keep our Malden businesses apprised of the latest legislative topics, the latest issues from SCORE, from the Enterprise Center, from the Mass Office of Business Development, and any number of resources that can help our businesses. So we have been trying to do that sort of thing as opposed to the face-to-face. We have plans to do some more virtual things coming up, which I can address later on. But the Chamber is doing its very best right now to support our businesses and our nonprofits in this very difficult time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. And next we're going to go to our own Kevin Duffy, who is our Business Development Officer in the Mayor's Office. Kevin, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate being on the show and having the chance to reach out to more businesses that are out there. As you know, since this has gone on, we've done a tremendous effort to try to reach out to a lot of businesses, field their calls, communicate with them via email, just make a connection any way we can. It was obviously unprecedented. There were a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. So we're just here as a resource, trying to connect people to the resources that are available to them, answer any questions they may have, and try to solicit some of their input on the best way for Malden to rebound once all the restrictions are lifted.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And last but certainly not least, our Community Development Director from the Malden Redevelopment Authority, Alex Pratt, rejoining us again on the show. Go ahead, Alex.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are very excited after working closely with the Mayor's office, with Kevin Duffy, with the Chamber of Commerce, with Joan, to announce today the launch of the Small Business Assistance Program that the Malden Redevelopment Authority is working on and administering in partnership with the city. This program is available for small businesses, and we are geared with this first round of assistance with $100,000 in CDBG funds secured through the Federal CARES Act to target businesses that are left out of the Small Business Administration program at the federal level. So we know that a lot of small businesses in Malden were unable to receive assistance through the SBA, which is the federal government. And so to respond to that, we've developed this program to help businesses with 5 or fewer full-time employees, including the owner. So think very small shops, to be able to get grants of up to $10,000. Those are grants, not loans, that'll be able to assist them in, it could be paying their rent, it could be payroll, it could be inventory, whatever their costs might be during this time so that they can stay afloat and continue to be a part of the vitality of our community. So businesses, residents, anyone who's interested in learning more or possibly applying to this can go to cityofmalden.org/businesshelp. It's also available if you look at the City of Malden website at cityofmalden.org/coronavirus. So this program is one of our responses to the COVID crisis. The other one that the mayor touched on is our rental assistance program. We have $750,000 set aside for rental assistance. The deadline to apply is tomorrow, Thursday, May 28th at 11:59 p.m. So please, anytime today or tomorrow, please apply if you think you might be eligible if you're struggling to pay rent during COVID. It's cityofmalden.org/rent. And again, both of those programs you can find at cityofmalden.org/coronavirus. Our own Brian Cochran has done a really great job of putting everything together there nicely for everybody. And has also been a huge partner to us at the MRA at helping get the word out about these programs.
Excellent. Okay. All right. We're now at the point before we get to the questions. We're at a segment called In the Web. Some of you are familiar with that. This is where the host gets to ask you any question that he wants, and you cannot avoid answering the question. All right. And we borrowed this segment from the hit show, the award-winning show Around the Rim, hosted by Nestor Dudley, otherwise known as the Dudster. So the first question will go to Mr. Webb. Do you agree with the governor's phase-in plan of reopening?
Yes, absolutely. As recently as today, I had a conversation with my colleagues about it, and to a person, they agreed that he had some really great minds in the room when he came up with this plan. When you think about it, it's time to the calendar and to reasonable times to get the testing done in between phases. So every 3 weeks we get a whole new batch of information, which is really important. That's really important. And I think most of these businesses will be open by hopefully the first week in July, and then we'll go full sometime late in July, early August. So yeah, I mean, it's laid out well. I think it's genius, honestly, after looking at what other cities and states have done. It's done incredible work.
Okay, very good. Mr. Pratt, let's mark this day. How many applications do you think we'll get as part of the business program?
I'd say about 100, maybe 150.
That's the prediction?
Yeah, you can mark it.
All right, I just did. Let's go to Mr. Duffy. Mr. Duffy, who has the best takeout in your opinion?
Yeah, I have to plead the fifth. I don't know if I can answer that without making one friend and 100 enemies.
All right. Let's ask you this then. Have you done every restaurant for takeout just about across the city?
I feel that the Duffy family has done our own small business relief program during this. We believe it's the COVID-19 pounds that this family is suffering from at the moment.
All right.
But we've certainly done our part. And honestly, you know, that's one of the messages I want to put out there to the viewers, that when restaurants and other businesses start to come online, you're almost beholden to this. If you're a customer and you have a favorite place, you must go frequent them. You have to go and support these businesses. If they're open now for takeout, go and get takeout, or better yet, get gift certificates. If you like a business, you must support it.
Got it. Very good. All right. And lastly, Ms. Mongeau, I know this year's Taste of Malden will be virtual. So does that mean I cannot ask you the question if there are any, will there be any leftovers?
No, sorry, there will be no leftovers. It will indeed be a virtual taste, but what we're trying to do is schedule it in such a way to reacquaint people with our wonderful restaurants and get people all excited about the fact that Malden is such a wonderful foodie town.
All right. You're all out of the web. Now let's get to the questions. Mr. Cochran.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, and I'm sorry to drop this on you at the last second, but I was told by Malden Access Television, we are renaming the show. It's called the Mayor and Patty Show. I'm not sure why they're saying that, but we're going to go ahead. Our first caller, I believe you can guess this one. Patty, go ahead. You are on the air with the mayor and the panel.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi,
Patty.
Gary.
Hey, Patty. How you doing?
I'm trying to get in touch with the Chamber of Commerce. I want to go back to volunteer. I volunteer, way back. I got a 5-year plaque from them.
Okay. So you wanna volunteer again with the chamber?
Yes.
All right. Well, we'd have to probably do it virtual, but let's hear from Miss Mongeau.
Absolutely. We can always use volunteers. It takes a village to make this whole thing run, and I'd be happy to talk to you, Patty.
Hi.
Right now, we're not doing anything face-to-face or in person, as you well know, but I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Is there a way?
What's the best number to reach? What's the best number to reach you at, Miss Mongeau?
My phone number is 781-24. Oh my gosh. I totally forgot. Call me on my cell, 781-367-8781.
8781.
All right,
Yes,
Patty?
please.
Yeah.
All right. And how's Margaret doing?
Not the same.
All right. I know Councilor Crowe was checking in on her, so she'll keep us posted if she needs help, okay?
Yeah, I've been doing a little bit for her, shopping.
Yeah, we appreciate that. If everybody was like you, we'd have a perfect world, Patty.
Oh, please. Gotta
All right.
get him out of the White House.
I know, yep. All right, well, we can't go there on this show, but thank you,
no.
Patty. We'll see you later.
All right.
All right, bye, Pat.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Patty. As always, great questions. The next question, this is this isn't coming to us live tonight, but it's been asked so many times. I feel like I'm sort of asking on behalf of a lot of what I've seen out there, and that is sports. We've seen, as you've announced properly, the mayor, that some parks are coming back online in limited capacity. What is the outlook for sports? When can organized sports get back to playing, and even at a level of, let's say, pickup sports such as tennis and basketball courts?
Yeah, no doubt. We have a series of emails about that topic, and we've gone over it on a regular basis internally. So let's go to Mr. Webb on your thoughts about the future of organized sports here coming up.
Organized sports are going to be a phase 2 activity. It's pretty well defined in the next phase that campgrounds, playgrounds, spray decks, public and community pools, all athletic fields and courts will be open with some guidelines, and use sports in a limited fashion. I don't know what that means yet.
Okay, and what's the time frame on when do you think that might happen?
I'm hopeful it will start on or about June 8th.
June 8th, okay. So do you anticipate your office reaching out to some of these groups to do a Zoom call to talk to the directors and the coaches? And
I'm working with Mr. Levine for the recreation stuff. We're talking about tennis courts today. We got some signage already set up and ready to go.
Okay.
For after June 8th. So he'll make those notices to all the leagues. And if he needs my help, I'll gladly help him.
Okay. But does the same then apply for Little League and lacrosse?
Yeah, phase 3 goes into, youth sports and games, like league games and tournaments.
Okay.
So you'll be able to practice for phase 2 and then go into your league play at phase 3.
Okay. All right, does that answer that, Mr. Cochran?
Yeah, I think most of what we've got, tennis was a big one. That I've kind of pulled that off of a lot of questions off of Facebook, very popular. And then probably secondary to that are the league, and you've addressed it there. The leagues wondering when they can get back to maybe informal gatherings first, not necessarily launching a complete season, but I think what's frequently asked, of our office is whether or not folks can start to assemble, at least in some sort of capacity, to practice,
Right.
informal gatherings.
Yep.
Okay. Our next question comes from Facebook. Rose asks if one of the panel, I guess Mr. Webb, if possible, could demonstrate or at least talk about how to properly don a mask.
Well, I happen to have a mask right here. So the best way to don a mask is, I don't have, this was not in a package, but if this were in a package, you'd want to handle it with the strings. And what I recommend where this is an air mask is keep it away from your mouth, which I'm not being very successful with, until you start to apply it. Hold it out, place it over your nose and mouth, lower it over your ears, make sure it's there. It's nice to have a mirror, but it's not necessary. And then if you have to lower it, pull it from the bottom below your chin. That way you're wiping any respiration into the mask, okay? And if you have to put it back up, try and do the same. Hold it out at the edges so you're not doing anything. Pull it away from your face, put it back over your nose, and adjust the nose, man. If you need to when you dispose of it, handle it by the strings or other devices, and then drop it in the trash.
Okay.
And Mr. Webb, we're going to keep you right there on the mask question and ask what do you think a lifespan is of maybe a surgical mask like what you just did as opposed to an N95 mask? How often or how long should people keep those?
That's a very popular question, and the answer is as long as you feel like you haven't overworked it, because it all depends on what you're doing, how hard you're breathing. Well, most N95s are more of a respirator type mask, so there's air out, air in. But those will last a good 6 hours if you're constantly working at a elevated respiration rate, not jogging, but some physical activity. A surgical mask is probably good for, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on if you're running errands, that kind of thing. There's so much air that gets out of those that you really don't want to wear them out in public that long, because once you start respirating harder, more air is going to pass by.
Thank you.
Does that answer it?
Yeah, I think it does.
I think that would do it. Thank you very much for being so thorough on that. Okay, well, our next question comes from Facebook as well. And this is from Marie, who is a frequent contributor to the show. Hello, everyone. My question is that she went out to Home Depot and couldn't breathe with the mask. She has allergies and asthma, and someone recommended what mask I could use. And she said she was given, a lot of different answers, and nobody could really accurately tell her. So what would you recommend for someone with breathing issues already?
Well, during this pandemic, I wouldn't be going to Home Depot if I had breathing issues, mask or no mask. That's one thing. But if you have to go somewhere and you have an allergy issue or you have COPD or any of these breathing maladies, I recommend using a cloth face covering. Get out, get what you need, and get back, because that's really the only thing that's going to afford you free respiration. Most masks have some density to them and will slow the air coming in.
Mr. Webb, do they have hours like Super Stop and Shop does for different age groups?
Who's that? I'm sorry, sir.
Home Depot?
No, I don't think they do.
Okay.
They have their contractor hours in the morning. I think it's more or less, they try to do the older crowd then,
Oh,
but it's not
okay.
a stated, it's only in supermarkets.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Where do you want to go next, Mr. Cochran?
All right, our next question is a business-related question, and it's actually similar. We had a similar question about the rent application, and this is now in the business. What is the extent of the business application? Is it tedious? Should they come preloaded with, information before they get to the application? Is it fairly straightforward?
Thanks, Ron. That's a great question. We tried our best to make it as simple as possible. So we are not requiring that just to fill out the application and to be entered into our program. You don't need to have your W-2 handy. You don't need to know, your social security number or anything like that. What we ask you is we ask a series of questions about your business name, who the owner is, business address, things like that. We also ask about your annual business revenue. We want to make sure that your business income is less than 1.5 million. We ask about your payroll, the number of people you have on payroll, the number of people you had on payroll before COVID, before March 10th, 2020. And then we also will ask about if you're in, obviously, are you a Malden business? Are you a small, are you a national chain? National chains are not allowed to be participating in the program. We ask questions, but we don't ask for you to prove any of it yet. So you'll fill out the application. We will enter you into the lottery. And then if you are selected in the lottery for assistance, that's when we will ask you to do kind of a heavier lift in terms of your time. And the reason we structured it that way was because we didn't want, obviously we need to make sure that the people who are selected and who are receiving funds are eligible for the program, and we will do that. But we wanted to make sure that just to be entered into the lottery was not too much work, because businesses are already going through a lot, just as renters are already going through a lot right now. The last thing they need is to be spending hours and hours completing an application to be entered into a lottery that they might not be able to complete. So all the questions we ask on the application for both the rental assistance program and the small business assistance program are designed to help us determine whether or not you are eligible to be entered into the program. And then after the lottery is conducted, if you are selected, we will invite you to provide your tax documents and things like that. So it's kind of a two-part question, or a two-part answer rather. We don't have a lot that we're asking from you up front, but if you're selected and you're going to be receiving up to a $10,000 grant, we will be asking you for some more information.
Mr. Pratt, when do you think we'll start seeing assistance be made?
On the business side?
Yeah.
So the deadline to apply is June 10th, and then we will conduct a lottery. The lottery will be conducted on June 11th, and we'll be reaching out to businesses at that point.
Okay.
And then it will depend on, obviously, if the business wants to see that assistance as soon as possible. After you apply, you might start to want to compile some of those documents. You're going to need to be able to prove your household income. You're going to need to be able to show your payroll from before COVID, that type of information. And all those documents we list on our frequently asked questions and in a guide that we have available at cityofmalden.org/business help. So if you want to get a head start, you can do that. If you don't want to do that until you know that you're definitely getting the money, you can do that too. But obviously, the more prepared you are once you're selected in the lottery, the faster that money will go out to you.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. We do have someone on hold, but before we get to that, there was a Facebook question that came in. And Kathy asked, and I'm not sure if this is as much as a question as maybe a suggestion. She says that she understandably that the senior center will be one of the last places to open, but do you think it's possible with some modifications to resume the AARP tax aid program to help any seniors who still need to file their income taxes by the new July 15th deadline?
I think so. We've been working with Karen Cologne Hayes, the director, and so we'll have an update shortly on whether or not we can do something there. Mr. Webb, do you also want to add to that?
I think there's probably a way we could make it safe, by appointment, appropriate desk distance, thing like that. We could make it work.
Yeah. So, Mr. Cochran, you can let her know. I think there's a good possibility we'll be able to make something happen relative to that.
All right, I will follow back up with her. And in the meantime, we're going to go ahead to our next caller. We have Marie on the line. Marie, go ahead. You are on the air with the panel.
Hi, I'm Marie. I'm from Green Street, and I got a question for Mr. Webb. I am a lung cancer survivor, and I also have COPD. Now, I've been calling around to different hairdressers, and they all say that their policy is you have to wear a mask at the hairdressers. But I do have a doctor's letter from my doctor saying that I literally cannot breathe with a face covering. Do I have to adhere to their ruling that I have to wear a mask at the hairdresser?
Mr. Webb?
If the hairstylist is comfortable with you claiming the medical exemption, which there is a medical exemption to wearing the mask, then they could do your hair. But I don't think they do a great job if they felt they were being pressured into it. So have a talk with your stylist and let her know that her mask protects her perfectly well, and that you'll do your best not to breathe in her general direction. And if she can find it in her heart to help you out, then fine. But she doesn't have to. She has the first obligation to protect herself.
Okay, and if she has further questions, Mr. Webb, what's the number she can reach the Board of Health at?
Sure. At 781-397-7049.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
Yes,
Marie,
ma'am.
maybe a call
Bye-bye.
back tomorrow. We'll try to help you further.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Marie. Our next question, I believe this is going to go to Kevin Duffy. We often get our small businesses that they maybe understandably don't want the health department with questions about guidance on reopening. Is there another pathway for businesses, the small businesses, to reach out and get information about reopening and guidance?
Absolutely. My job is to basically work with businesses with any questions that they may have. So this is a perfect example. I'm going to be working with all of the departments that need to be involved in order to reopen businesses. So if they're more comfortable contacting myself as the business liaison, happy to field that call. My number is 781-397-7000, extension 2009. And then my email is first initial last name, kduffy@cityofmalden.org.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Before we get to our next questions or callers, I'm not sure if it's you, Mr. Mayor, that's going to talk about this, but I do believe there is I'm sorry. Joan, I think we're going to go to you on this one. We're going to be playing a video here, but we wanted to get you to introduce it.
All right, Joan,
Sure.
lead us in.
Sure. One of the things that we were talking about earlier is how we had to adapt what we did as a chamber to support our businesses. And one of those things was we had to cancel the Taste of Malden. So in order to still support our businesses who would have participated in the Taste of Malden, we're going to do a virtual taste. And it's going to be a video. It's in the creative process right now. But it's going to give everybody an opportunity to see how our restaurants have come back from this terrible ordeal, what they're going to be offering to get a little one-on-one information from these restaurants. And I know that Ron Cox has started a video, which I believe he would like to show now.
We've pivoted a little bit in terms of our production and making sure that, as we're canning every 2 weeks, when we bring a mobile canner in, that some of that stuff that's being canned is something new and exciting, to keep them coming back.
So how do they order? Give us a number.
Shop.idlehandscraftales.com. So you can go on that website, you can see everything that we have available. pick out what you want, pay for it online, and then come here and pick it up at the brewery. If you want us to
Where's
deliver
that
to
address again, Chris?
shop.idlehandscraft.
No, I'm at the address on
idlehandscraftales.com.
What's the address on there?
Oh, 89 Commercial Street.
Oh, commercial, I meant, yeah.
Yep.
All right. All right, Shane, let's talk about you and your status. What's happening with O'Neill?
Well, we're at this point waiting on further direction from the state again. We're back to that position where we've had 3 false starts where we were given dates that we were going to reopen, and now we're on number 4. It's hard to plan anything, to be honest, without a date, the firm date. As of right now, June 8th is the supposed date, but that depends on some data that the state, we don't really know what that is. I'm hoping that next week we get that confirmed as a yes or a no. But the biggest, I would say, frustration for us at the moment is that we don't have any direction in terms of how the reopening looks like. So what will the guidance be? How many people?
You're looking for the governor for that direction?
Yeah, we're waiting on the state to give that direction.
All right, we're back. And thank you, Ms. Mongeau, for doing that for us. And we look forward to getting back in there as soon as we can.
Terrific.
So let's take some more questions.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Joan, for taking care of that video. And our next question is, I believe this is going to be back to Kevin Duffy again. Let me just get this right. Okay, yeah. So what is it of a new process that businesses can help businesses for some of the administrative stuff that they are going through? Like normally when they go to City Hall, Kevin is frequently helping them set up different business models at home. What will change about that now that coming to City Hall is not an option? And are there any other processes that you can help with?
Well, absolutely. So one of the things that I get a lot of calls on all the time are home-based businesses. And then when the quarantine came in, more and more people were like, geez, I can make money while I'm at home. But the normal process involved you coming into City Hall. And since City Hall is temporarily closed to the public, that was a barrier. But working with the city solicitor, working with the city clerk's office, working with the building commissioner, we've created a temporary process that will allow people to get their business certification so that they can get their home-based business up and running. It was just one of the ways that the city has reacted to what's going on so that business didn't stop in the city. We want to continue to encourage people to open businesses and do well in business. And then one other thing that we're working on now is everyone's eagerly anticipating phase 2 when restaurants can start to slowly reopen. And there's a lot of talk about outdoor seating. So we're in the process now of creating Malden's response to expedite an outdoor seating request. The caveat is it has to be allowable on the state level from the ABCC first. So we're anticipating some temporary changes on that level, which will allow Malden to follow through so that we can all start enjoying dining al fresco.
So, Mr. Duffy, where could you see that happening? Give an example or two. Who has the space to be able to do that?
Well, we have a lot of places that already have outdoor seating so that they're going to get those rolled out. If they didn't do it in the initial time when we normally do it, now they're realizing, geez, they want to get out there. We're going to process that. So that would be Hugh O'Neill's. You've got Three Amigos. John Brewer's has a great outdoor tavern. Mystic Station has an area. But then there's some other entities coming online, like the long-awaited Faces Brewery is coming. And I know everyone's very excited about that. They have a tremendous parking lot out back that they've recently repaved. They're going to do some fencing. They could put out some picnic tables, and it's a beautiful, lovely spot. And you can socially distance appropriately. So this might be a great opportunity to not only welcome them to the city, but to actually go down and enjoy a brew in the afternoon.
Okay. And then, Kev, Mr. Duffy, on the small business front, so as a result, have you seen an increase? And do you think those home-based businesses, rather, will end up staying after the pandemic's over?
Yeah, I do. So home-based businesses we always encourage because to me they're like seeds. You're always planting seeds and you're hoping these seeds take and they grow up, and then all of a sudden they've got a commercial space in Malden, they're hiring employees, and they become a bigger business. Many of the giants in business have started that way. So a lot of these businesses are really realizing there's an opportunity to do online sales, and so that they're getting involved now. They'll be here when it's done. It's just a question of, can we nurture them, and is there a market for them to grow and suddenly become a bigger business?
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Duffy. All right, do we have a caller, or what's our next question?
No, we're waiting for callers to queue up, and I'm just looking around to the different avenues. One, not a question, but Kristen Kerrigan, who's watching live on YouTube, says thank you all for doing these weekly. It's very important to keep us informed, and I appreciate it. So we like to recognize that a lot of people do appreciate these shows weekly. Okay, our next question is in regard to gatherings. So we talked about sports a little bit. When will, or what criteria are we looking for so that we can increase gatherings, at parks, or when we talk about restaurants, but in general, what criteria are we looking for?
All right, Mr. Webb?
There's generally three that we're looking for. One is, of course, no new deaths would be great. A drop in positive test result, and the drop in hospitalizations, which right now all three are happening. So we're moving towards that next phase of phase 2, which I think is going to be very exciting for a lot of reasons. I think it's going to be challenging too for a lot of reasons. But and I would ask the public just to give the businesses the benefit of the doubt in the first days of the rollout. They're going to be working. They're already working really hard trying to figure out how to do it, and then how best to serve their customers safely. We get a lot of questions around equipment and how they can do things safely. So the vibe is out there. They want to come back and they want to be of service.
All right, Mr. Webb, so have restaurants had to make physical modifications in anticipation of coming back online? What are you seeing out there as you travel around?
Some of the takeouts obviously have done that. They've got additional signage and marking on the floor, and maybe another exit that they're using. The big seated restaurants haven't started yet. I've got a couple of questions, mainly about outdoor seating and how much seating will they have inside or be able to have inside. Some questions around good questions actually around ventilation. So we're gonna work with people. I know that a lot of the restaurants are probably concerned about keeping the doors and windows open. We're going to work on that. We're going to try and enclose some kitchens that if we can, inexpensively, and see if we can't open up some doors and windows, do some different things. So it'll be al fresco inside, maybe.
Okay. And do you see what's happened to the houses of worship happening to restaurants, meaning that, the houses of worship had the go-ahead last weekend, but many of them chose not to open back up? Do you see the day that restaurants are allowed to open up, not all of them do right away?
Well, I could see if we had national chains or things like that, maybe like a Ruth Chris or somebody like that, they might decide not to open. But for the most part, even with reduced seating, I think you're going to turn your seats over a little quicker. So instead of getting 3.5 seatings a day, you might get 4.5. Most folks aren't going to sit around as long, so lines will, may form, but they'll be short.
Okay. Let me segue over to Mr. Duffy, because it was just a couple of hours earlier I was talking to Malden Police Officer Joe Walker, and we were both wondering about the future of Bodeborg. He had the same opinion as I did, that they are really, have become a lifeline for us in the square. And I think you told me, credit to Chad Ellis and his team, they haven't, given up whatsoever, right?
Correct. And actually, I touched base again with Chad today to get a sense of his vision, because he's in phase 3. And so that's just, maybe June 29th, if things go according to plan. So there will be some modifications over there. They'll reduce their own occupancy. If the state comes in with a higher number, they have a lower number that they want to target, figuring maybe one team per quest, so maybe about 80 people. So that way you have the quest to yourself as you go all the way through. There's not a lot of passing in the hallways. There'll obviously be major sanitizing regularly throughout the building, and then hand stations everywhere. So they're adamant about going forward. The one disappointing element I do have to throw out there is that it does look like Ball Cool, the very cool Quest, will no longer be there. It's something that would have been too difficult to sanitize regularly, so they realized it just has to be tossed.
And they're still moving forward with the expansion.
Oh, the expansion's going on as we speak. And let me just throw out there, let's not forget, Bodeborg is not a standalone franchise. There are 8 other Bodeborgs over in Sweden and Ireland, and they've actually already gone through this process, and they're a little bit ahead of us in terms of the reopening process.
And they
are borrowing from their best practices.
And they haven't suffered as a result?
Well, I mean, there's obviously stuff going on, but they've already tried some methods to get out of this, and so they know it's really working. So this Bodeborg will be able to adopt those strategies.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. All right, where do you want to go next, Mr. Cochran?
Okay, we just want to let everyone know we have just about 10 minutes left in the program, and we do have another video we'd like to show you at the end. So we're probably going to be a little bit ahead of schedule in the sense of offering the panel some time to close. But before that, we do want to get to a couple more questions. The question, I think, we're right back at Mr. Duffy. What about, you talked about faces, people being excited about that. Do they have an opening date? Is it contingent on all other restaurants? Are they ready to go right out of the gate? Or what's your sense on faces? And I guess if we're going to cover them, we might as well cover a couple of the other new restaurants, Bit Bar, et cetera, that were raring and ready to go.
Well, as you know, Faces has been working on this project for a long time. It's a huge building, so they're going to have plenty of space to social distance. But this has been going on for quite a while, and so they were quite near the finish line when the quarantine came in. So this quarantine has actually allowed them to finish. They've received their certificate of inspection today. They'll be getting their certificate of occupancy very soon. So I believe when the governor says we can go back to restaurants, Faces will be there to be able to go to. And as far as Bit Bar, the construction shut down earlier in phase 1 or in the quarantine. That held them up, so their process is delayed now. They also have another restaurant that they want to get back online. So I think they're targeting the end of 2020 now.
Okay, but they're still going to have Space Invaders, right, Bit Bar?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Excellent.
And what did you have next, Mr. Cochran?
Well, we were just before we get to our closing comments, we did want to remind folks that if we're unable to get to questions business related, we want to remind folks that the Massachusetts State website has an immense amount of resources regarding reopening, and I say that not just for business owners but for residents as well, because I think I'm going to speak for myself. Sometimes I like to know more than the business owner does before I enter there. So if I see something that is wrong, or if I sense that, they're not doing the correct thing, or if I want more information, I like to find out before I go there. And if you go to mass.gov/reopening, you'll be able to see the governor's orders and how they laid out, and how the governor and his team laid out all the different phases in the opening plans. And there are guidelines there. And so if you see these businesses, you can remind them as well that full guidance is there. We're taking most of our guidance from them. There are local orders that, of course, augment it a little bit, but we take most of it there. So we did want to remind folks of that. Okay, with that, that does wrap up our questions for the most part for the evening. We do want to leave some time for our guests here to close out. So I think we're going to go ahead and reverse order here. How's that? We'll start with Alex Pratt, if you want to go ahead and say some closing remarks.
And Alex, could all the panelists just make sure they provide their contact information at the end as well?
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ron. Alex Pratt, Community Development Director, Malden Redevelopment Authority. If you have questions about the rental assistance program, if you have questions about the small business assistance program, you can call us 781-324-5720, extension 0. If you have questions about the rental assistance program, you can also email them to rent@maldenredevelopment.com, or the small business program at biz grants@maldenredevelopment.com. And if you don't speak English or you're not as comfortable in English as you are in another language, let us know and we will provide translation services for you. We really want to make sure that this recovery effort reaches everyone and not just folks who are fluent in English. So our rental assistance program, again, the deadline to apply is tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. So you can have all day tomorrow to apply. It only takes a few minutes. If you are a low-income renter, you're struggling to pay rent because of COVID, you can apply for funds, and we would love to be able to help you. That's cityofmalden.org/rent. If you are a small business owner, you're a low-income or moderate-income business owner, which is most of Malden falls into that income category. So if you are a business owner and you have a business with 5 or fewer full-time employees, and that can include some part-timers too. If you have 7 part-time employees, that could still count as a small business. You can apply for funds, and hopefully we'll be able to assist you with grants of up to $10,000. Grants, not loans. The deadline to apply is June 10th, and you can do so at cityofmalden.org/business help. And then the last thing we wanted to talk about, Mr. Mayor, was just the census. The U.S. Census is ongoing. It is so important. It is vital for our efforts to recover from this emergency, this crisis. It's also important, even in good times, about how we move forward as a community. So the U.S. Census, you can take it online if you have not taken it already, my2020census.gov. You can take it in any number of languages. It takes 10 minutes. It's really easy to do. It's vitally important for our community. Every person we count in Malden, we estimate will bring at least $2,000 to Malden each year the next 10 years. So think about it. Your community will benefit $20,000 by you participating in the U.S. Census by our estimates. So you can do that again, my2020census.gov. Takes 10 minutes. It's very important. It's also very safe. Your information will not be shared with anyone. It won't be shared with law enforcement. It's your information. It goes to the census, and the census compiles it into much larger data sets. So it's never shared as, Alex Pratt said this. It's very private, and they take your privacy very seriously.
Okay.
So that's the rental assistance program, the business assistance program, both of which we are funding with our with money we get in part because of our census results from 10 years ago. If you take the census, it'll help us be prepared in the years to come.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Next, we're going to go to Mr. Duffy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a longtime listener, first-time caller, it was an honor to be on the panel tonight, so thank you for that. I do want to just go back and hit a point that I spoke to earlier. The quarantine, the shutdown really devastated businesses. A lot of them went a couple months without any income. So as we're getting into the reopening phase, and then later on in the summer when there's the rebound phase, we really need customers to come out and frequent the places they like. If you like the place and you want it to stay in Malden, go out and tell them that. Go and spend some money, gift certificates, dinners on everybody. It's the right thing to do if you want to keep the business in the city. They need your help, as do the workers. And so I just want to thank you again for that opportunity. If anybody has any questions, please reach out to me. My email is kduffy@cityofmalden.org, and my extension at 397-7000 is 2009. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks again.
Thank you, Kevin. Next, we're going to go to Chris Webb.
Thank you for having me again. I enjoy it every time. I want to just, like I always do, remind people that we've come so far, and we only have, it seems like a long way. I know it's been difficult. Believe me, I know. But if we can just be mask conscious and, distance conscious and be courteous to other people while the process goes, because as we start to go phase to phase, the things we're doing now, we're going to have more and more people doing them with us. And we're going to be ever more conscious of other people around us. Be patient with other people. We're seeing a little of that people are losing their patience with somebody. If you have your mask on, you're safe. Don't worry about the other guy. I'm sure there's a reason they don't have a mask on. Just take care of yourself. Take care of your loved ones. Stay the course. And we're going to come out of these phases better than we would have ever thought. And like Mr. Duffy just said, these businesses are ready and raring to go. I mean, they're just a lot of good questions. Very excited about that. And I wanted to add one last thing before I go, is that I left out one step after taking the mask off and throwing it in the trash. Wash your hands, wash your face, and then wash your hands again.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Webb. And finally,
Yep, Joan, go ahead, right ahead. Thank you.
All righty, thank you. I want to reiterate what Kevin said about supporting our local businesses. And I'm hoping that everybody will be very, very patient with these business owners as they start reopening. Not everybody is going to be able to do things full steam ahead, and just be patient until they can get their operations back to normal. I also want to let people know that the business community in particular, that on our website, maldenchamber.org, we have a COVID button. I know, sad to say, I can't believe I actually have a COVID button on my website, but I do, where we have cataloged all the information that we've been collecting, whether it's about business planning, reopening, lending, any of the programs that are out there to support small businesses. You will probably find that on our website. And finally, please look for our virtual events that we will be having very soon. Next week, we're going to have a virtual networking. I think our businesses are anxious to get out and see one another, just as we're doing right now. It's not the same as the face-to-face, but it's pretty close. So it's hosted by East Cambridge Savings Bank and J. Malden Center. And we're going to do curbside takeout from Dockside Malden and El Potro. So that's one way to get our businesses together, even though it's via Zoom, get people together and show how we're committed as a community. Lastly, we did talk about the virtual Taste of Malden that's coming, that will be announced very, very soon. And finally, we are going to be doing the Year of Dining raffle this year. And we have some very, very generous sponsors who have stepped to the plate to purchase the gift certificates from our Malden restaurants to go into that raffle. So I will not be asking our restaurants to contribute. They will be the beneficiary of the Year of Dining raffle this year.
great. Thank you very much. Thank you to you all for being here, being a part of tonight's show. One thing that we have said throughout this pandemic is that we must stick together. And I really want to end by thanking Malden Access Television again. And if you thought these weekly updates weren't enough, they have come together to also help us with the campaign #MaldenTogether. So if you go to matv.org/Malden Together, that's a place where you can offer your thoughts, artwork, pictures, video, and it's a way of just, trying to stay together as we make our way through this. I also want to end by thanking everyone for coming together this past Memorial Day. I think most people would have understood if we had, not done anything, but that's something we refused to do. So whether it was Jim Cahill putting flags out at all the grave sites at Forestdale Cemetery, or it was Kevin Jarvis decorating all the memorial squares, Bobby Knox doing the flowers and the mulch along with his team. I want to end by thanking Ron Cochran, Paul Hammersley for taking all of that and putting together this video that we thought was a fitting tribute to all those who have served and continued to defend our great nation.